welcome allies to the Visionary Activist Show, and I'm your weaver of context, Caroline Casey. So, when life gives you demons, make demonade. I saw that somewhere a long time ago. It seems good. So Trickster within us all responds. Speak truth, be power. Crazy danger requires Majnoun, which is trickster crazy for the divine. It's a word I learned in Syria long ago in a wonderful way. So I've embraced it as a linguistic talisman. And it's just, when Deborah Felmuth and I were at the Baghdad Cafe in Syria, in the desert outside Palmyra, there was a man there who ran it who was very playful and wonderful. And he had altars everywhere, things he'd found in the desert, and very unusual for Islamic men. And Deborah said, "How did this happen?" And he goes, Majnoun, which is trickster crazy for the divine, right? So it's a waxing full moon, Mercury stationing, planetary intelligences gliding into the most powerful, opportune, and dangerous summer, guiding the guiding mythic news of now. With accomplices, we will be bringing in James Baldwin on love and the decisions on whom to be, kinship across borders, the Iranian Team in Mexico, and so much goodness again underneath all the governments, actual humans. The Algerian team in Lawrence, Kansas, right? And Lawrence, Kansas has turned out they learned the Algerian anthem. Their kids are playing with the team as a wonderful thing. Everywhere there is great hospitality among actual humans. We love that kinship across borders. Mamdani on AIPAC, Judge Andrew Napolitanoa on war crimes of Netanyahu, Trump, and Hegseth, Hannah Arendt on Don't Sing with the Crowd, and John Moriarty on Never Mind a Republic, but an Aonlaith, an animistic country. So off we go. I'm Michaela Gaston, and I convened our summer solstice, which will be ongoing, and you can find a recording of that for really practically free at coyotenetworknews.com. Really super useful. And this waxing full moon, right, the chart of now is so heartening, which is why we're taking it together with audio accomplices. So So it is a waxing full moon. It will be full on Monday. It's the full moon, sun in Cancer, moon in Capricorn. What it wants to be, is to tease kinship and compassion into the structures of governance. I love this full moon, right? But again, if we don't animate the desirable, it's likely to get kidnapped by the Dementors, as it was a year ago on the full moon, when the Trumpian Dementors, invaded Venezuela and kidnapped the president and his very beloved first lady, and where are they? Where are they? So they did it right on this full moon, going, oh, Dementors kidnapped the opportunity again. So it behooves us to animate the desirable. Let this be again a full moon. And Mercury stationing, we'll play with it. A full moon on Monday, again, the Cancer-Capricorn conversation, that real feeling of family, Cancerian family, and safety and protection be teased into all the structures of governance. And we go, oh, shit, yeah. So the chart of now, we will keep touching on, but I looked at it and was like, oh, no, okay, this wants to happen. So I'll say it and translate it. But the sun in Cancer, feeling what's needed and responding, makes a 135-degree angle, called a sesquiquadrat, to the moon, pretty much exact, to the moon at 19 plus Scorpio. I always light up when I see that. My friend Sylvia long ago taught me that the medieval grumpy men called it the accursed degree of the accursed sign, because its image is a woman draws back two dark curtains leading to a sacred pathway. So we like it, but the grumpy men were like, you mean no priesthoods? And we're like, right, no priesthoods, just direct mediation, just all of us, teasing democracy into the souls of our being. So the sun, sesquiquadrat the moon in Scorpio, sesquiquadrat Saturn, and Saturn's or Neptune, sorry, and Neptune squares back to the sun. It's called a it's called a particular construction, and it is exact, right? It's called Thor's hammer. And when Sylvia first taught me this, I was like, couldn't we think of a jollier title? But then a little internet search on Thor's hammer. Thor's hammer is the capacity to swoosh corruption out of the halls of governance. I'm like, oh, we'll keep that. What a good idea. And then meanwhile, this powerful pattern that prevails guides us over the summer. Again, it behooves us to animate the desirable, lest we leave it by default to the Dementors. So, so Pluto has retrograded back to 4 Aquarius. Neptune was already waiting at 4 Aries. We'll do this pattern. Uranus now at 3 Gemini, which is holly and mistletoe, druidic life force, but it will soon be at 4 Gemini, which is a radical magazine circulating liberating ideas, and then Jupiter will enter Leo and be at 4. So just to say it for fun, Jupiter will be at 4 degrees of Leo, opposite Pluto at 4 degrees of Aquarius. That reminds me also of, ancestors. We're going to bring in ancestors. Ancestor Jim Lewis, wonderful astrological buddy in San Francisco and the world, back in the 80s. And he said, look at Jupiter and Pluto, incredible for publicity. And I was like, whoa, why would that be? Is that cheesy? But then Jupiter is storytelling. Pluto is death and rebirth. Its totem is the phoenix. And before the phoenix bursts into flames and is reborn, she sings this hauntingly beautiful song. And all of creation stops what they're doing, comes to their senses, remembers kinship, and listens to the phoenix's song, all about, mutual aid and reciprocity and kindness and authenticity and democratic animism and all those things. And then the phoenix bursts into flames going, okay, we could say the phoenix got a lot of publicity. All of creation listened to her song. Remember that, in looking up the symbolism of flamingos in Albania, flamingos, because of their bright plumage, they were called the firebirds. And it's like, firebirds, that's Pluto. That's the phoenix. It's the phoenix revolution that's happening everywhere. Again, it's people, it's communities, it's kinship rising up, stronger than the governments in place, and it's global. It's so we have this pattern of Jupiter at 4 Leo, Pluto at 4 Aquarius, Uranus at 4 Gemini, Neptune at 4 Aries. And that will be most of July, but it's moving into place now. So the image for Pluto right now is the Council of Ancestors. A young leader listens to their voices. So let's call in James Baldwin, a splendid ancestor, to guide us with what we need to navigate now. Here's James Baldwin.
Love has never been a popular movement, and no one's ever wanted really to be free. The world is held together, really it is held together, by the love and the passion of very few people. Otherwise, of course, you can despair. Walk down the street of any city, any afternoon, and look around you. What you got to remember is what you're looking at is also you. Everyone you're looking at is also you. You could be that person. You could be that monster. You could be that cop. And you have to decide in yourself not to be.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, James Baldwin. Right, we could be. And then the decision, the powerful decision right now, Saturn in the sky, which is our decisions, and we're still in this solstice time period, which is the sun stands still, the longest day just behind us, and now the dark is rising slowly. But it's still the still point. If we took note of where the sun, rose and set, like all peoples would have done before us, we would notice that it's not moving very much now. It's like the solstices. It's really 3 days of standing still. So we're still in this. So part of what's available to us is, and Ami was great. Ami's always great to, guide us into the still point, Ami. So we'll pretend she's singing to us now. We enter into the center of the storm, and there are so many storms and so many earthquakes and so much, apocalyptic summer weather already. We go, phew. So we step into the still point at the center. Again, it's like the beginning of Brer Rabbit. There was times when all the critters used to gather to sagactuate, just like there ain't been no hard times, like there ain't been no falling out, like they all remembered they were kin. Right, remembering kinship. So we step into this still point, when the storm around us, whereby to gather our wits. And in the still point, here we are in a circle of telepathic kin right now. Everybody in their magic backpack has a Thor's hammer. You can take it out right now and practice. Just swirl the Thor's hammer overhead. It's the sun in Cancer to the moon in 19 Scorpio. To Neptune and Aries, power of dreams, vision, imagination, and yearning, power of water. Water reflects a reverse image. When people who had paralyzing strokes on one side of their body, doctors decided to work with them with mirrors. And those people recovered incredibly much faster because in the mirror, the reverse image, the Neptunian water mirror image, say the left side of body was paralyzed, but in the mirror they saw it moving. And if the brain sees that moving, it will create the neurological pathway to make it happen. And that's what happened with those people. And in the same way, teasing into us, if we see the desirable, we acknowledge the horrific, we're going to, but we see the desirable, then our collective neurological pathways will create pathways to make that happen. Neptune and Saturn, I was born with them together. They're in cahoots right now, which is imagination lays the tracks for the reality train. We go, okay, right. Again, seeing it, seeing the desirable. And I do so love, again, reading Peter Kingsley, who's sometimes a bit, but he knows a lot. And going back to Parmenides and Epimenides, the founders of Western culture 2,500 years ago, the creators of logic meant as pathways to the transcendent. And it's like, oh, that just so delights me. Again, in our ongoing de-bamboozling Revelation Fest, going, right, logic and rationality as paths towards transcendence. And in Parmenides' poem, where he talks about being taken to the underworld, this is all pertinent to us now, being taken to the underworld where a nameless goddess speaks to him and tells him, that he must be her messenger in the world. This is very happening now. I mean, it's very happening now. And he uses the word longing over and over again in his poem. And Kingsley says the word he would have used for longing means, original first passion, yearning, as the primary motivator of life force. And that if we follow our yearning, it will take us on a journey to exactly where we need to go to be ourselves and to cultivate and contribute our gifts to the community. So it's like, oh, and that's so now. Neptune, dreams, vision, yearning is in Aries, the first sign, to honor that. So Parmenides is taken to the underworld. Neptune has a beautiful sextile to Pluto. We're all going to the underworld. We can go voluntarily or get dragged, where the goddess speaks to him, Uranus and Gemini, and tells him to be a messenger. And this is throughout the ancient world. Epimenides, I might get them confused, was taken on a journey to other worlds, right? Other worlds, where the world of truth and justice, to bring it back to humanity. This is 2,500 years ago, but it's a great template, and again, Parmenides goes to the underworld, and we do too. It's available, Neptune sextile Pluto, where he hears the message. And so for each one of us, really, just to wonder, this doesn't require belief. It's just, again, metaphors are the incarnational garb whereby power enters the world. It's just useful to ask ourselves, for what are we dedicated to being messengers? At this powerful solstice time, as James Baldwin says, we could be anybody. That could happen to us. It's a highly fluctuating field. We might feel, I confess as well, grumpy thoughts inside. We might, but then we decide on the human we want to be. And it might be that as humans, what makes us distinct, as a species, aside from our terrible manners, it might be our responsibility, opportunity to borrow qualities of intelligence from the flora, fauna, fungi with whom we share this home. So yes, so the shape-shifting, yes. And then to look to the good, we're going to dive into the underworld, but, to go to the underworld in order to receive a message that's available to all of us for what, and the quest begins with questions. We don't need to know. These three planets, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, large by symbolism, even if not by mass, in Pluto's case, they represent huge forces of nature's evolutionary intelligence, and they are the keepers of the whole big conversation, cultural and biological. So when they dance with us, and they're all dancing with us, they are deconditioning. So Neptune says, dissolve all certainty. There really never was certainty. It's always been a booby prize. And Kingsley says, the word, prophet was not a predictor of the future. It was somebody who was a messenger of the divine to the human community, a go-between. Also kind of like Iris, the rainbow goddess, she can take messages from the underworld to heaven and from heaven to the underworld because she doesn't live either place. And we go, okay, there's that thing. And so we want to look to the. So anyway, so here's this choreography of Pluto, 60-degree collaborative angle exactly to Neptune. Power of imagination, everything into Pluto's cauldron, everything, all of our old ideas. And when we get to John Moriarty, even tossing in the idea of a republic with maybe a better, deeper thing, dream big, play fair, right? Everything goes into the cauldron. There's a lot of de-bamboozling and deconditioning going on right now. We'll come back to this guiding chart because it's so full of encouragement. There's a grand trine, and I can't help just do a little more. There's a grand trine in fire. Venus at 14 Leo, which is the degree of Mardi Gras. Pageantry fills the streets, so passionate creativity. It's around us. It trines dark moon Lilith with her girlfriend's nemesis, who brings down unjust empire and unfair fortune. Remember the saying, no fortune without a felony. And Pretty Boy Floyd saying, some will rob you with a gun and some with a fountain pen, right? So Dark Moon Lilith, in cahoots with Venus at Mardi Gras degree, trining Saturn at the degree of inclusivity. Metaphors for each degree of the zodiac. Saturn's image is a man and woman in an embrace. A snake is embracing them, meaning include everybody. Include the man, the woman, the snake, the thing, and every infinite variation, room for everybody. And Mardi Gras, I just talked to a wonderful friend of show, Martha Ward, from a long time ago. Yesterday, again, it's a time as Mercury stations for us all to get back in touch with meaningful people, meaningful teachings, meaningful history. Martha Ward is the great biographer of Marie Laveau, really the only great biography of Marie Laveau, the great voodoo queen of New Orleans. And June 23rd, I called her on June 23rd, because that's the holiest day in New Orleans, when Marie Laveau and High John, the great trickster, redeemer, folk hero, walk the streets, right? So I called her up. We hadn't talked in years. I'm like, hi, and she goes, oh, darling. And she goes, it's very hot, but we're all going to the bayou for ceremony. I was there before, and like, oh, yes. And she had provided many fabulous New Orleans guests. Again, we're just gathering everything important, the wisdom and the beauty. And wonderful guest that she guided me to was the keeper of the Museum of Feathers and Costumes, this great older black guy. And this was right after Katrina, and he'd said, some people are like, well, why are you keeping the museum afloat of costumes and pageantry and music, when people need water? And he said, well, this is the soul of the city. And a lot of NGO people reported in saying, well, that's actually true. We can't provide help until there's an infrastructure to receive it, and art and creativity and pageantry and parades creates that infrastructure. So Venus at the Mardi Gras degree reminds us of that. Let's go to something quite wonderful, which is the Iran team, and Mexico. We'll play that in a second, but I want to just read their note, right? They left a note, a handwritten note in the locker room, the Iranian team. It said, from the ancient Persia of thousands of years ago to the civilized Iran of today, the spirit of Iran remains alive and steadfast. We came to Los Angeles with pride, competed with honor, and leave with dignity. Thank you, Los Angeles, for your hospitality, and thank you to every Iranian who gave their heart, voice, and soul for Iran through these 180 minutes. May peace, respect, and friendship prevail among all nations. We go, yes. So we're going to hear just a little bit of the Iranian team. So grateful because of our churlish Dementor government that has made the Iranian team leave this country after their arduous events and go to Mexico. But here's the Iran team and Mexico.
About Tijuana, I would love to say we love Mexican people. I think everyone has the same feeling. It's just unbelievable how welcome we were there, and the hospitality there is amazing. And I think there is a really heartful feeling between the players and the team to Mexican people now. And I would like to say muchas gracias, Mexico.
It's just, there is great human kinship family. And remember also right overhead right now, and you can see it after sunset, Jupiter, Mercury, pretty much, almost visible in the gloaming of sunset, right next to Jupiter. If you see Jupiter, Mercury's just below it after sunset, and Venus getting brighter and brighter and brighter, because Venus has returned from the underworld as the evening star. Her cycle is, honored in all cultures with their guiding myths, because it's so clear. Venus will be the evening star as she is now for like 9 months. She's going to get brighter and brighter, higher and higher in the sky. It's called the evening star of peace. We have her as the evening star, I think, through November, and then she will get so close to the sun that she disappears, called Venus going to the underworld, and then she will rise as the morning star, whole different cycle. But here she is right now as the evening star, and we go, oh, that's great. So kinship, ceremony, giving things, making things visible, the spirit of the team, the Flamingo Revolution, the Firebird Phoenix Revolution, the goodness all around, and the brave, people who speak truth, be power. I'm thinking Zoran Mamdani, who is so dreeing his weird, right? I have his chart. It's fantastic, really, fellow Libran. His Pluto's at 19 Scorpio, right? The moon's right on it right now. The accursed degree of the accursed sign, because it's a no priesthood degree. There he is. So here's Mamdani speaking truthfully. Speak truth, be power on AIPAC. Here we go.
Some members of the Jewish community, including Democratic Congressman Josh Gottheimer, were alarmed by the language he used at the rally last week, calling AIPAC monsters who move dark money. These are phrases that invoke old anti-Semitic tropes and conspiracy theories. What do you say to those who are concerned that the language you used is dangerous?
Now, I want to be very clear. We're talking about a status quo where children are being killed on a daily basis. More than 1,000 Palestinians have been killed by the Israeli military since the so-called ceasefire. Even an Al Jazeera journalist, Ahmed Wishah, was killed this past Saturday by an Israeli strike. And when I am speaking about AIPAC, I'm speaking about an organization that has been supportive of the status quo, that has fought any attempt to actually deliver safety to people, not just in Palestine, but frankly, through much of the region. And it is a status quo for immorality. It is one that I will not accept. And when it comes to the way in which they defend the status quo, Oftentimes they defend it through direct contributions, as we are seeing right now in New York 13. Oftentimes they also support the status quo through dark money, by filtering money that would have previously been directly from AIPAC, now through other shell organizations whose identities of their contributors are only made clear after an election. And I think that it is important that when we ask ourselves how such death and destruction is happening overseas, we also name those who allow it to take place.
Might we not all feel that when truth is said without any quibbling, just like, that it does relax us in some way, like, okay. It might be a difficult truth, but it is like, that's great. And then I think we can fit in before our break. Well, we're pretty loose, or I speak for myself over here. But let's go to Medea Benjamin, a longtime ally, reporting in on the New York primary. She's friend of show. I'm sort of the fairy godmother of Code Pink just because I gave him the name. But here's Medea Benjamin reporting in on the New York primaries.
Something amazing happened in New York City yesterday. Despite millions spent by AIPAC and other pro-Israel lobby groups trying to crush progressive challengers, voters delivered 3 historic victories to candidates who support Palestinian rights and democratic socialism. Claire Valdez defeated an AIPAC-backed opponent in Brooklyn and Queens. Daria Lisa Avila Chevalier unseated longtime Congressman Adriano Espaillat. And Brad Lander defeated the horrible Congressman Dan Goldman, one of the most outspoken defenders of Israel's assault on Gaza. And these candidates weren't just running against big money, they were running against their own party establishment. Democratic leaders and New York Senators Chuck Schumer and Kirsten Gillibrand, they've spent their entire political careers defending Israel. But these candidates did have the support of the very popular pro-Palestine mayor Zohran Mamdani. Of course, these races were not just about Israel. They were mainly about housing and healthcare and workers' rights, and a government that serves ordinary people instead of wealthy donors and powerful lobbies. But Israel mattered. Millions of Americans have watched the horrors unfolding in Gaza and Lebanon and now Iran, and reject politicians who continue to support war crimes. Predictably, far-right conspiracy theorist and anti-Muslim provocateur Laura Loomer turned this into an anti-Jewish vote. She tweeted, "If you're a Jew in New York City, now is your time to move. After tonight's election in New York, nobody who's Jewish is safe. I'd love to see the Trump administration address this Islamic takeover of America and the exploding Jew hatred. We need leadership in this issue. It's dangerous." Think about how absurd that is. One of the candidates she's warning about, Brad Lander, is Jewish himself. These victories are not an Islamic takeover or a rejection of Jews. They are a democratic rebuke to endless war and support for Israel's war crimes. And that should give all of us hope. Thank you, New York City. As a Jew myself, I can't wait to spend more time there. New York City is leading the way.
Yay. So yes, we've got many things to play, but again, thank you, Medea. We met Nina Simon's one of the co-founders of Bioneers years ago. It was really a year after 9/11, I think. She got a bunch of money to introduce women she thought who should meet, right, and in Ojai, and it was a great gathering. It was a great team. Medea was there. Diane Wilson was there. Carolyn Raffensperger was there. Many, everybody worthy really was there, and much came out of it. I mean, Diane Wilson, all praise be upon her, frequent guest of show, and again soon, like indefatigable, just amazing. Just, she likes to operate solo. She's not, she doesn't want to be tied down by groups. But it was at that time, that the government was going, oh, boogity, code red, danger alert of terrorists and immigrants and whatever. And so on the Visionary Activist show, this is decades ago, right? So I began declaring code hot pink, meaning everybody remembers Kinship, right? And Medea and Jodie Evans, heard that and were like, oh, we're going to start a women's peace group. We'll call it Code Hot Pink. But they dropped the hot because it turns out apparently that was a porno site. But there we go. So Medea, everybody has different assignments. We all have different assignments. So that's good. But we wave across, right now it's getting back in touch with everybody. So for our break music, we have, yes, it is. I'm pretty sure it's probably AI, but it's Hannah Arendt's words set to jazzy blues. Don't sing with the crowd. And we'll just let this, again, part of each one of us to have our own unique voice in the choir. All God's critters got a voice in the choir. Some sing lower, some sing higher, and everyone, sings. I'm going to forget the rest of the lyrics there. But yes, unique voice in harmony, It's our trickster selves. So here's Don't Sing with the Crowd. It's the words of Hannah Arendt.
Whose words are these? Whose mouth are they in? They came dressed in borrowed voices, soft and certain, clean and bright, selling easy little answers to the fear inside the night. Every face became a mirror, every mouth repeated sound. No one asked where truth was hiding when the chorus came around. And the room got loud with silence when the questions disappeared. One by one they learned the language of belonging through their fear. Don't sing with the crowd if the song is not your own. Don't kneel to the echo just because it sounds like home. If you still have a mind, let it burn, let it breathe. The world does not need another voice that only learns to repeat. They said everyone agrees now, like a prayer without a soul. Truth became a polished slogan, passed from hand to hand like gold. But a thought is not a weapon till you lay it at someone's feet. And a lie becomes a kingdom when the careful stop to speak. She said thinking is a doorway, not a tower in the sky. It begins when one small question looks the chorus in the eye. Don't sing with the crowd if the song is not your own. Don't kneel to the echo just because it sounds like home. If you still have a mind, let it cut, let it bleed. The world does not need another voice that only learns to repeat. Say it slower, say it alone. What do you know when the noise is gone? Who are you when the crowd moves on? There is no shelter in never asking why. There is no innocence in the well-rehearsed reply. Every borrowed sentence leaves a shadow on the tongue, and every silent witness keeps the darkness young. Don't sing with the crowd words to repeat. Whose words are these? Whose mouth are they in? Think once in silence, then begin.
All right. I think that's great. And that's a kind of homage to the part of us that's stirring now, our unique genius voice within everyone listening now. There's a unique genius voice. And Uranus Trickster says, where would you like liberating genius? Where are you willing to be a messenger, not for self-importance, but because something important whispers to you and says to be its agent, its communicative voice in the world? And Neptune says, just wonder. And the beautiful dance right now says, whatever we wonder about is going to magnetize a responsive augury. I wonder what, oh, okay. So then we're back in the conversation, a wonderful word. Con is with and verse is turning. Conversing, conversation means we're all in this giant turning together. And Uranus Trickster says to all of us, I am your booking agent. You dedicate to what Uranus and Jupiter say, we'll do the how part in a way that makes you bark with laughter. And it reminds me again, late ancestor Stella Coyote, my longest relationship this lifetime so far. Stella Coyote and actual Coyote and I created our creation myth, which was long before there were humans. There was Coyote who sets the whole thing going with a sizzle of liberating lightning. And this uniqueness goes into every flora, fauna. Everything is part of a species, but also each being is unique. And it moves through every flora, fauna, fungi, and every now and then it's orthodoxed or colonized or imprisoned. So it's a great escape artist. And I love the word escape. It means literally to exit one's cape. Isn't that darling? It's why some people used to wear two capes in case somebody grabbed one cape. They could escape and still have a cape. So a great escape artist. And that sizzle of uniqueness and nature's evolutionary trickster genius that likes impossible odds, against all odds, it's for that sizzles into each one of our hearts now, each one of our imaginations. And part of our extending the invitation, we need the awakened imagination and creative genius of everyone who aspires to be an Earth citizen. Again, we cross the borders, and then with our brooms, we dissolve the borders. Because what we're looking at, the Uranus Gemini, is the flamingo revolution everywhere, everywhere. Again, this waxing full moon with Mercury stationing to retrograde so that we remember things and we get back in touch with parts of our lives. And we also look at history. I'm fond of the Iranian Lego News, the history of America that we've played before, but it's so complete. It's so good. And John Stormer's work, Resistance History of America, to be de-bamboozled, to go all the way back. So onward, team. Let's hear John Kiriakou, also friend of show. I've hosted him a couple of times, right? And just to remind ourselves, Mercury and Jupiter remind us that no one is one story, many stories. And so we are cultivating our genius of complexity, going, well, that's one true story, but here's four more, So we're all befoibled, right? But to find the story that we like in ourselves and others and choose to animate that. So here's John Kiriakou.
Chris, I was in Greece and Cyprus 3 weeks ago. I spent 10 days in Cyprus, actually. And oh my God, where do you start? It's gotten so bad. First of all, you're right. I'm a proud Greek American. I'm a proud dual national. I go to Greece 2, 3, sometimes 4 times a year. I love the place. 23andMe has told me that I'm actually 26% Cypriot. I am just as proud. I'm speaking to the U.S. Cyprus convention here in Washington tomorrow. Very, very proud.
Fantastic.
Like you, every time I go to either Greece or Cyprus, I hear Hebrew every time I go. Everywhere I go, there are new synagogues being built, which is perfectly fine. What is not fine is that the Israelis are buying up all the real estate, not just to have, a summer place or a weekend place or to make an Airbnb. They're buying literally entire villages all at one time. In Cyprus, they bought an entire village outside of Paphos. It is Jewish only. They're only selling to other Israelis. The legality is unclear, but this is what they're doing. They're building a casino there to attract other Israelis to come and vacation there. They asked the Greek government 3 weeks ago for permission to buy an entire island in the Ionian Sea. They were denied. But you make an important point I want to reiterate. The governments of Greece and Cyprus are joined at the hip with the Israelis. And I get it. The Israelis and the Turks hate each other. The Turks not just hate the Greeks and the Cypriots, but are an active day-to-day threat to the Greeks and Cypriots. Just yesterday, the Turkish government ordered that the term Aegean Sea not be used in textbooks or in Turkish schools. The term Aegean Sea is now replaced with Sea of Islands. That's the new term, like Gulf of America, that Turkish children are going to be using. So Turkey's a threat. And the Greeks and the Cypriots need Israeli help to protect them from the Turks. I get it. But you cannot just throw away your centuries-long commitment to human rights. You can't throw away 80 years of support of the Palestinian people. And so we're seeing things like we saw day before yesterday in the port city of Piraeus, where an Israeli cruise ship docked with a shipload of Israelis wanting to get off and go to the Parthenon and spend some money. And they were blocked from even getting off the ship by a mob of Greeks. This has happened repeatedly over the last 2 years in the Greek islands as well, including on my own ancestral island of Rhodes. Average Greeks, normal Greeks, will not allow Israelis to disembark. And this is in protest for the way the Israelis are treating the Palestinians. So listen, everybody can live happily ever after if there's mutual respect for human rights and civil liberties. And there is not. There is not. The Israelis will take what they want, and if they can't take it, they'll buy it. Mm-hmm. The Israelis asked the Cypriot government 4 or 5 weeks ago for permission to open the first ever Zionist high school, not Israeli high school, Zionist high school, specifically to teach high school students the philosophy behind Zionism so that they can produce more active Zionists, but this time in Cyprus. What do the Greeks and Cypriots get out of all this, except being dragged into a conflict?
Just a quick follow-up. Do you think, my fear is that over time, they're eventually going to expand Greater Israel and they're going to say Cyprus is also ours?
The Cypriots are actually worried about that.
Because actually in some maps of the Near East, Cyprus is included in that.
Yes.
Right?
Well, don't forget also that Cyprus is absolutely full of Lebanese.
Correct, of course.
Most of them being Lebanese Christians.
Correct.
Or Druze who are friendly to the Cypriots. And now all of a sudden these Israelis are showing up. Like, well, now what?
Correct.
The Turks yesterday asked the European Union to force Cyprus to drop its objection to accession talks between the EU and Turkey. The Cypriots, of course, are not going to do that. But even the Turks are warning that the Israelis are taking over Cyprus. And so what you're going to end up having is de facto Israel as a member of the European Union. That's overstating it. But, there are two sides to most stories.
Right, at least two sides to most stories. There are many stories, many stories. So thank you, John Kiriakou, guest of show several times. There we go. Former CIA guy who's sort of turned democracy person. Again, many stories, many stories. But yeah, what he's articulating also is that the stealing of language about place, right? To change the name of the Aegean Sea to the Sea of Islands, it's like, no. Again, place names. The Strait of Hormuz is named after Ahura Mazda, right? The god of light in Zoroastrianism. And the story is that Ahura Mazda takes on, the demons of darkness in the Strait of Hormuz, right? So if we know the place names and the myth, we can participate. If we don't know, we're possessed, right? And that's part of it's part of a ongoing solstice trickster training that I'm convening. It convenes on Mondays at 11 a.m. Pacific time, 2 p.m. You can jump in any time, but it's, cooperators are standing by, awaiting us all to rejoin the choreography of creation. Again, it's, when life gives you demons, make demonade, trickster within us all responds, speak truth, be power, crazy danger, requires Majnoun, waxing full moon, Mercury stationing, planetary intelligence gliding into place. And all those in council, all those who've signed up for a day, a month, or a season, you can find out more at coyotenetworknews.com, will be granted the summer solstice recording and more things too. So here we are, team. So that's useful. Again, we blend it with many stories. All liberating stories are super welcome. But the erasure of names and the erasure of history, right? The erasure from the Pentagon of all black heroes and women heroes, and and the slavery displays taken down, and in Philadelphia and everywhere, but people are speaking them out anyway. Again, this defiance, this global, we're not going to have this, this kinship that surpasses, any orthodoxy, any tribe, any religion. Underneath everything is kinship, and it's on behalf of the Earth herself. Chiron, little planetoid that really exists, keeping the history of mentors, has just entered Taurus, the realm of incarnational sensuality and participatory animism, everything alive. And on the solstice, and continuing now, it makes a 60-degree angle to the sun in Cancer, reminding us again, all of our kin, and Uranus chimes in and says, I am nature's experimental genius with no category about success, fail. Just try stuff. Try that. Nope. Try that. Nope. Try that. Whew, that's great. So it's not try something and like, oh, it didn't work, try that. No, try something else. Keep going. And Neptune says, we want you to wonder. And when we say, well, what should we wonder about? Neptune says, wonder about what you should be wondering about. Can't blow this. We wonder. And the wonder magnetizes revelation and guiding augury, as part of our contribution. There's a piece in the Quran where Muhammad goes to Gabriel and says, if Allah had made us all alike, there would be no evil or conflict in the world. And Gabriel says, no. Allah would not have any of that. The challenge is to come into accord from maximum difference. And I've told that to Islamic friends of mine. They go, that's in the Quran? I go, yep, right there. There's liberating qualities in everything if we dive for it, and we're all meant to die for it. So even in a right-wing Fox contributor, see, it's such an opportune time. It's so tippy. So here's, I think the track is called VCTHR for some mysterious reason, but it's Judge Andrew Napolitano. Let's go to that.
Buckle up for this one. This is Judge Andrew Napolitano, a longtime fixture on Fox News for the past 20 years. He's appeared on Fox News over 14,000 times, so he is no liberal judge by any means. On a recent podcast, he said this, quote, "The Guardian is reporting that the school where the 170 girls were incinerated was a private school for the daughters of Revolutionary Guard officers in Iran. That school was intentionally targeted. Those girls were intentionally incinerated in order to humiliate and torment their fathers. This is barbarity of the highest sort that the United States engaged in at the direction of the Israelis. War crimes by Netanyahu, Trump, and Hegseth.
All right. War crimes. Right. Accountability. Let us all be agents of accountability. The sine qua non for any experiment in democracy. Accountability. It's a Saturn theme. And if we don't know what to do, invite in that which does. May it be. And we're allowed to set in motion any liberating blessing of which we would be the happy recipients. Right. That's the ally etiquette. Right. So may each human have an increasingly empathic experience of the effect of their actions on others. And we each say, would I accept that? Each styrofoam cup, each small and large infractions, like, sure, let's go. Let's go for that. War crimes, Netanyahu, Trump, Hegseth, it's Net and Trumpstein, really. It's the Net and Trumpstein class. And then what is the wonderful antidote to that? Underneath everything, and Chiron and Taurus would introduce beautiful ancestor John Moriarty and his honoring of Aonlaith. Let's play John Moriarty guiding us to what we could have.
Donnie, we warned you about your buddy. Told you friendship ain't strategy. Told you compliments ain't loyalty. And now look at this. You need a ceasefire. Iran needs conditions. And your friend Bibi, he's out here doing side quests. Man, what a mess. Ceasefire starts, more strikes in Lebanon. Another ceasefire, another deja vu. People asking, wait, wasn't peace supposed to begin already? Israel says, we still got operational freedom. Iran says, Lebanon stays in the deal. And suddenly, Mr. Tough Guy is on the phone saying,
Can everybody please calm down?
hold up, wasn't Iran supposed to be begging? Funny how tables turn. What a mess. What a mess. What a week. Everybody talking peace. Nobody sleeping. What a mess. What a show. Everybody saying yes, but nobody letting go. And now your own people mad. Republicans throwing punches. Reagan's rolling in his grave. That's your side talking, Donnie. Not CNN, not MSNBC. Your own team saying, man, what are we doing? 110 days, billions spent. And we're back negotiating, back talking, back making concessions. History got jokes. And then the reflecting. Ooh, $14 million, blue paint, fancy promises. And the alky says,
Appreciate the renovation.
satellite pictures lighting up green. Then another contract, no bids. Another million to clean the thing you just fixed. What a man. The pool reflecting alright. It's reflecting the whole administration. What a mess. What a mess. What a scene. Blue water turning green. Know what I mean? What a mess. What a mess. Can't make this up. Even comedy writers saying, bro, enough. Meanwhile, oil stocks falling, numbers moving, reality talking, because charts don't vote, spreadsheets don't lie, and markets don't care about speeches, Mr. President. Maybe the problem ain't bad luck, maybe the problem is this. Too many announcements, too many promises, too many victories declared, and not enough victories delivered. Donnie, the deal's shaky, the party's shaky, the pool's shaky, everybody's shaky. And somewhere in Washington, a little algae bloom looking at the headlines saying, don't worry, boys, I got this. What a mess. What a mess.
That's good. The news report, always reliable from our allies at the Iranian Lego News Service in so many ways, schooling America. So that's good. And then perfect timing, perfect order, really. Everything has a mind of its own. Now let us go to John Moriarty and Aonlaith in the perfect order. It really does belong right now. So here we go, John Moriarty on Aonlaith.
One of the things that John lamented was the fact that when we got independence in 1922, that instead of declaring a republic, we should have declared an Aonla. And John uses that old Irish word, and it means a bird reign. And what he was suggesting was that Ireland could be a shamanic country, that Ireland has a shamanic past, and that instead of living in opposition to the natural world, that we live fluently with it. Now that's a wild idea, as opposite as it can be to the Ireland that we're living in now.
Hello.
You're the man that
I'm Tommy. John, pleased to meet you. How are you? Are you well?
Cable to a store.
I don't have Irish, but I'm mighty. I'm mighty.
But we'll manage anyway.
Yeah.
We'll manage anyway. Unless there's wildness around you, something terrible happens to the wildness inside of you. And if the wildness inside of you dies, I think you're finished. In Connemara, like they say, squeal amache and be a siri, Wilderness outside and wilderness inside. Wildness outside and a bit of wildness inside, But it's just that you're not dominated and overwhelmed by who you sociologically are. I don't just think about those mountains and those hills, I think with them. I mean, you have a sense that you're sitting among them and you're thinking with them and you're dreaming with them and they're dreaming with you, and I don't think it's a fantasy. You're actually dreaming their dream with them. The where I am is intimately connected with the who I am.
That's great, and that's a great way for us to begin deconvening, team. Thanks always to Kirsten Thomas. I'm Caroline Casey. You can join Trickster Training Council and find out more at Coyote Network News. But the wildness within, the wildness without, it's so now. We're thinking with the mountains. We're dreaming with the mountains, our kinship. So thank you, team. Thank you, team. See some of you on Monday, perhaps, and we will reconvene next week. Woof, 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 woof. Oh, woof.
American historian Manisha Sinha.
One could imagine the permanent achievement of interracial democracy and Black citizenship in this country. And if we had that, you could really think about the republic that we had after the civil rights movement as having taken place 100 years prior. So it would have been a tremendous success for American democracy if indeed we had been able to preserve the results of the Civil War and create a society in the South that was more just towards people of African descent. We still live with the long afterlives of slavery and racism in this country, and one of the reasons why we do that is precisely because Reconstruction was overthrown in a brutal manner.
Get Learned, only on KPFA.
There are easier ways to do radio than this. Corporate sponsors, paywalls, wealthy backers calling the shots. KPFA chose a different path. Listener-funded, independent, accountable to the community instead of advertisers. And for 77 years, listeners like you have made that possible. Guardians, our monthly sustainers, support KPFA at whatever level works for them. $5 a month can make a real difference when enough people come together to give. Because independent media does not survive automatically. It survives because people decide it should. Join them. You pick the number, we'll keep the radio on. kpfa.org.
You're listening to 94.1 KPFA in Berkeley, 89.3 KPFB in Berkeley, 88.1 KFCF in Fresno, and online everywhere at kpfa.org.